All right, so just to give a little bit of context to why mine is different, obviously this is a comp internship course. I was originally a sports media major. After my freshman year, I transitioned to major in human services. However, with me keeping my minor, as well as the fact that I've just naturally gravitated towards this department because of the people, because of the energy that it has, I thought it'd be best fit for me to stay in this course for my internship. The way mine differs from my peers is the fact that, again, it is not comm related. It is not digital media, it's not photography, it is not electronic media. Mine had to do with a nonprofit type internship, which in my case would be I was the meal bus coordinator for Myron's Meal Mobile, which is one of the 6 nonprofit programs for the Mercer County Food Bank, previously known as the Community Food Warehouse of Mercer County, which is obviously the foundation that feeds over 320,000 families over the course of the year across Mercer County, whether it be people who are facing food insecurity, whether it be people who are facing just getting out of prison, or institutions where they do not have the means to provide for themselves on a day-to-day basis. So my job was to be able to feed, not necessarily feed, but be able to oversee the feeding of these families during this program. Another way that my internship was very much different is I did not have a lot of diversity in regards to what I did on a day-to-day. Mine was very straightforward. For 2 months plus, I was doing pretty much the same thing every day, so mine was very simple. But the things I did want to cover that were part of my internship were the locations where we would feed these individuals in Mercer County, my tasks and duties as the meal bus coordinator, my staff and coworkers, whether that be full-time members of Mercer County Food Bank or those who are specifically part of this program, and then the key takeaways, and something that I think is very applicable to everybody who is in college, everybody who's in this room, anybody who is dealing with a redundant day-to-day lifestyle. So when it comes to where we served, we had 5 different locations throughout the entirety of the week. Monday, we would go to Hillside Presbyterian in Greenville, PA. That is on the top, and from left to right in the bottom, that bottom left picture is the Stoneboro Fire Department, where we would go on Tuesdays. Wednesdays, we would head over to the United Methodist Church in West Middlesex. Thursday, we'd head to the State Naval Library in Farrell, PA, and then Friday, we would go to the Buell Club in Sharon, PA. Now, the way these would differ is, A, the community. Now, even though we're still serving 100 or 120 meals, depending on the location, which I will dive into, the type of community, you would be shocked for the diversity that we had. For Emily, myself, who grew up in Mercer County, there is not a whole lot of diversity in areas such as Greenville, Stoneboro, very retiree type communities, where even whenever I would serve on a day-to-day basis, I would see a lot of the same people, and quite frankly, a lot of the same ethnicity, if I can be very straightforward about it, where in Farrell and Sharon, there was a lot more diversity in regards to cultures, in regards to the type of people we would see. I would get used to seeing, frankly, the same faces in Greenville and Stoneboro every time we would go there. And even though it built some type of community, I was a little bit apprehensive, not because they didn't need the meals, but because I wanted to feel that we were serving more than just a set group of people. Where in Farrell and Sharon specifically, we would see a lot of different people, whether that be from clients who are dealing with mental and physical disabilities who can't feed themselves, whether it be by families who might be hearing about the program and they just got in that location this year. There's a lot more people we would get in those areas, and it just made our job and my job as the coordinator for this program just so much more satisfying, knowing that we're not just limiting ourselves and who we're serving. In regards to what I would do on a day-to-day, again, not a lot of diversity, but I'm still blessed to do it. So for these locations, we would serve 100 meals. For Farrell and Sharon, since those are our more popular locations, we would serve 120 meals. Now, there are times where we would be pretty low. Our first week in West Middlesex, and this was the first year we served in West Middlesex for Myron's Meal Mobile, we had 63 meals. In that case, obviously, we're not very happy, not because we're not serving people, but because we have a lot of food left that, even though it's still going to other people who do need the food just as much as the people who are showing up at these locations, we felt like there was still a lot of people who aren't getting our message and our mission statement that we are here to feed people dealing with food insecurity. There are other times where we were in Farrell. It was the 6th week, and we served 139 meals, which obviously goes past what we have. So there are times where we get to 130, 135, and we may just have the base meal. We might not have all the add-ins that go with it. And obviously, that is a shame for the people who came in late, but it gave us an even greater reason to do that, knowing that there are so many people in those areas that need the food right now, regardless, again, if it's because of food insecurity, because they have families who have 8, 10 kids, and they can't feed them all at the same time without obviously dealing with food insecurity or financial insecurity, whatever the reason may be. having that high of number in Farrell and others like that in Sharon, where we served 137 and 138 on back-to-back weeks, it just gave us a greater purpose for what we were doing. Each individual could take 3 meals with them. It used to be 6, but there'd be times where we'd serve 6 meals per person, and not that they didn't need it, but we would be out of there in 40 minutes. We would serve from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m., and then we would head back regardless if we had food left or not. But again, we're not serving the entire community if we're giving 2 people 12 meals. Again, that's just not realistic to be able to feed that wide of a community. If we did have food left over, which obviously there are cases we did, we would give it to our 3 agencies. Good Shepherd on Mondays, which are located in Greenville. Tuesdays and Fridays, we would give it to Valley Baptist. And then Wednesdays and Thursdays, we would give it to Prince of Peace. And again, those are either churches or other nonprofits or NGOs who have meals and events like that where the food is still being put to use. Other things I would do on a day-to-day, again, I would manage the bus. Stocking it every Friday, cleaning everything that we had with us, and we should be able to come back with. In regards to our inventory, again, every Friday I had to be able to stock up on mostly disposable things such as styrofoam containers, plates, silverware, obviously any of the add-ins such as apples or fruit, juice, stuff like that, be able to have that with us by the time we get ready for the next week, because again, we do go through that very quickly. This was a grant-funded program, so the biggest thing I had to keep track of was the amount of meals being served in that location. Because if our grant development coordinator, Alexis Spence-Locke, went to the people who were giving us that grant and the meals didn't add up, obviously they could very much pull that grant from us. It's not being funded by the state or by the or by the Mercer County Food Bank. It's completely grant-funded, so I had to make sure every meal was accounted for and every add-in was accounted for. The family that I was able to grow with at this location, again, I have people who are full-time members of the Mercer County Food Bank, such as Patricia Tucker. This is her 2nd year as the volunteer director, and she was my immediate supervisor. However, the majority of the people I've gotten to know from this program were people who are just specifically affiliated with this program. 2 of those people are our bus drivers. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, our bus driver was Earl Butterfield. He is the one in the orange shirt on the left side of the top right-hand picture. He is a pastor for the Methodist Church in Greenville and West Middlesex, so obviously people are fairly familiar with him. And it was very, very cool having someone like that where as he really related to me. For those of you who know me, I have a very dry personality, so whenever I get to have those car rides with him, it definitely fit my style. Our other bus driver I don't have pictured, Bruce Herster, very much the opposite. He is very flippant in regards to his vocabulary, in regards to his opinions on people, but again, it gave a really nice mix-up knowing I didn't have to have the same person driving me every day, and again, it just added to the experience. And then Joseph Altenor, he is the owner of Haitian Sensation, which was the restaurant that catered for this program this year. They change it every year. He was also an occasional volunteer over the summer. Joseph is pictured on the bottom left-hand picture. He is on the left side. He is obviously from Haiti. He has been here since 1984, I believe, and he's had that restaurant for 11 years. And for somebody who never ventured to Haitian Sensation, it is definitely a pillar of the community by the way I've gotten to know more about it. Some of the takeaways, again, this is the biggest thing, because again, whenever you go to the same thing every day, okay, what can I take away from it? The 3 biggest things are the issue of food insecurity. People think of food insecurity as just not having the means to get that food. They may have the financial means to get the food, but they may not be able to cook it because, again, of health conditions, because of living on their own. Or they may be in a situation where they can cook for themselves, but they can't drive because of age, because of past history. Whatever the reason may be, there's so many different forms of food insecurity, and I come to realize that being in this role this year. I would say being useful outside of the job description, my last 2 months is whenever I served as a meal bus coordinator, but for the first month, whenever school ended, I was not on the payroll yet, so I was not given that job. Plus, it didn't start till June 10th. So I was being given tasks such as building a garden trellis for the community food warehouse local garden. Was not expecting to do that for 2 days. Organizing testimonies and picking up supplies for the meal bus program. Organizing testimonies for people who have been served by the Mercer County Food Bank and having them ready for the newsletter. Something I was not given immediately, but it was still something that I still ended up doing. And then the thing I want to relate to you guys is being intentional with each opportunity. Something that I took away from Joseph was you need to open up a bit. God could be using those moments as opportunities to work through you. And the reason I mention that is this job relates a lot to our lives as college students. At the end of the day, you have the same class schedule. Honestly, you might have the same sports schedule. You might have the same day-to-day life for 15 weeks, and it can get redundant. And then believe me, this job, it got redundant at points as much as I appreciated having it, but be intentional regardless if it's just taking a time you laughed with your friend today, regardless if it's somebody saying, God bless you for serving us. Those little opportunities just make it so much more worthwhile, and I just want to impart that on you guys. I get it, going through the same class schedule is difficult every day for 15 weeks, for 4 months, but try to take something out of every day and just be intentional about your interaction with people, because I guarantee it's going to make that experience far more worthwhile than if you're just going through the motions with it. Again, I know that was very much simplified. I could probably go into much more detail about this, but I thought that this was the big premise that I wanted to get across to you guys and the purpose of why we were serving for Mercer County Food Bank. And I can open up the questions. Yes, Meg?
You mentioned obviously how important it is to be open-minded and to enjoy the opportunities that you have. So how has this internship kind of shifted your mindset when it comes to those that you're impacting?
Again, it just gave me a far greater eye-opening experience towards it, because I never would have expected to be able to serve in areas where, one time we were in West Middlesex, and to be very transparent about it, there was a family that had just been evicted and their 5-year-old child didn't have pants on. There was a time where we were serving a family, not a family, but an individual who was living out of the station wagon, had his dog in the car with him. So just being able to experience these things, even if they're on a one-time basis, even if you never see them again, it allows you to realize, okay, I can be of so much more use if I just put myself out there a little bit more. And I believe this experience and this internship allowed me to put myself out there more than I otherwise would, because I never would have seen things like that to make me realize, okay, I am needed to serve.
I know you mentioned this is obviously a little more outside the realm of communications, but what specifically drove you to do this internship rather than any other internship or communication?
I had actually volunteered for this program for the prior 2 years. Whenever I changed my major and I felt compelled by God to give my life into service, and volunteering, which I'd never done in my 19 years of life prior to this point, I took up. And then before I came back to school for my junior year, they offered me the position for the following summer, and I thought it was a no-brainer. But again, I never would have assumed that I would have had this eye-opening experience, because I assumed I had seen everything that comes with this position, and clearly there was a lot that I had not yet experienced.
Is this something that you can probably think about doing full time?
I plan to. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be with Mercer County Food Bank, wherever I'm being called to serve, but I know that I'm not driven by much else other than just giving my life into service, because I believe answering God's call for you, regardless if it's service, regardless if it's ministry, regardless if it's sports media, answering that call, whatever He's called you to do, is the greatest blessing that you can give back to God. We can't repay Him for what He's done for us, but I think it is something, answering that call is the greatest thing we can do. So I definitely plan on doing this full time, regardless of what way it's in.
Did you find yourself becoming more open, and you were mentioning getting different bus drivers, you were having to do small talk every day with someone new? Did you find that bleeding into your daily life? You were opening yourself up more?
Absolutely, and I appreciate Joseph taking note of it, because again, I'm very self-aware in that I'm not necessarily the most approachable person, and I appreciate him taking the opportunity to mention that, and me being more self-aware of okay, let me be more open to this, and I think that's going to open up more opportunities for God to use me in other people's lives. So it was definitely something that I took notice of, and I'm grateful that I think I am at least a little more open than I was prior to this experience. I just want to speak for my group, and Professor Krause, thank you for taking the time to come out. We're all busy right now, we're getting ready for finals, but it does not go unnoticed nor unappreciated the fact that you took the time to come support our presentations. We'll be here same time next week for our second group. Thank you, guys.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.